Good morning, everyone. It's good to see everybody. How's everybody doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing well.
Morning.
I see Commissioner Richardson. Do we have Gabriel online?
I believe I saw her name.
Yes.
Yeah. Can we line them up like we did before, guys?
Yes, if we can pin them to the top, that way I can.
And just
see
streaming live on YouTube already, is because we had to make sure it was working.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, we are up on YouTube.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, her name is on there. It's just photos. Okay. All right.
Right. Yeah. If you didn't do that, it's brought him up. I don't know why not. I don't know. That was weird. So go ahead where you are.
Good morning, everyone. It is 9 a.m. this January 25th, and we will be kicking off by walking through the agenda for our meetings this week. After today's meeting, we do have a 9:30 executive session planned. And so commissioners just want to give you a heads up so that you know that when you log off, that we'll be logging back in. So after our agenda prep, we have our work session, and then tomorrow we have a work session that's open to the public at 1:30 p.m. where we have 3 presentations that will be provided. One regarding the mobility special purpose local option sales tax referenda. The second is to receive recommendations for the Cobb County Code update. And the final one is to continue on with our budget presentations. And if Jackie, you can tell me who's presenting.
We modified it because of the other presentations. So right now, juvenile court is the only one scheduled.
Okay.
And then just a reminder, we will have one, the first meeting in February, and the second meeting in February will conclude our budget presentation.
Okay. Do we still have my focus clause? Yes, tomorrow. Yes.
And code amendments.
So first thing will be MSPLOS, second thing, code amendments. And third is the budget presentation by juvenile court. Moving on to the agenda for the 7 o'clock meeting, commissioners, I just want to advise you that this may be a longer meeting. We have a lot of matters just on the agenda as it is on its own. And then we have code amendments, which can take some time. Yes, we'll also be doing this virtually, so this will add a new dimension to our meeting. So I just ask for all of your patience, brew your coffee, and just prepare for a longer meeting. Let's see, we just have that one public hearing, and then we'll follow that with public comment, and then we will dive right into the consent agenda. And just going through these again, I know we have a very dense agenda, so I'm gonna probably go a little bit slower so that you can take some time and go through your pages. If I need to slow down, please let me know, as I want to make sure that you have opportunity to get all of your questions answered. So the first matter is, the first matters are pertaining to the water system, agenda items 3 through 7.
I had a question regarding number 6.
Okay.
Flip through the pages. And my question is, since we're compiling a list, does that mean that we do not have to send out an RFP when we require this type of project or any type of this type of vendor?
Judy's on mute.
Hold on, we have to make sure that Judy is unmuted.
Okay.
Okay.
So we still issue bid documents, but only pre-qualified contractors are allowed to bid.
Okay. That was my only question.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions, commissioners, for any of the water system items, items 3 through 7? All right, we're going to move on to transportation and items 8 through 12. Do commissioners have any questions for items 8 through 12?
I have a question on number 12.
Yes, Commissioner, go ahead.
Why in the impact statement do we have that the satellite facility must begin within 2 years of the acquisition or exchange property closing? Why is that there?
That's there because that's part of the statute. If you're using the funds as the exchange, the beginning of that new facility has to start within 2 years.
Okay, but it says, so construction means just land disturbance or pulling the permits?
Construction in the statute is actually undefined what construction would mean, but I think it's the intention of the board, at least expressed, that they would at least start the build out at that point in time.
And to clarify, that's construction of the satellite facility. It doesn't matter on the private side when that moves forward. Is that correct, Bill?
That is correct.
Commissioner Burrow, yes,
I think this should be moved to regular.
agreed. So moving this to regular, it takes one commissioner move it from consent, Commissioner. So if that's your desire, which
Well, I'd like to get a consensus, but I mean, if you're the second, that's fine.
I support.
There's agreement in that.
Thank you, Commissioner Richardson. Yeah, so we can pull this off consent and it would follow immediately after the agenda. I believe there's a county manager and sheriff's office tab. And DOT has a very long agenda. So what we can do is pull the DOT. Get your,
First on DOT.
if commissioners are okay, commissioners, are you okay with us making that the first item on the DOT tab and still keeping the county manager and sheriff's office tab in place before DOT?
Yes, I am.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrow.
I'd rather see it right after consent, but if it needs to stay with DOT, I'll agree.
Just makes sense.
But
If he was
make it
gonna
first.
call up
Yeah.
and discuss it, he would already.
I know, and I hate to put you through this, Drew, but we've had some emails and I think for public purposes, it needs to be explained more thoroughly with the agreement and everything.
Glad to do it.
That's a great suggestion. And typically, there's no issue in putting it right after. It's just that Drew has 18 items. And so we'd be pushing back the other two matters.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Thank you, sir. It seems as there's consensus for us to put that with the DOT tab, commissioners. Is there any opposition? Just want to be aware.
But it can be first on the DOT tab.
Yes, ma'am. We'll put it first. All right, just give me a moment to make it done. All right, are there any other questions with items 8 through 12? Okay, we're going to move on to support services. They have one matter on, they have two matters, 13 and 14.
I had some questions on 14.
Go right ahead, Commissioner.
I guess Bill Boatman, you want to explain what can't come out of?
Sure, this is regarding the cleaning. So what we decided to do is use general fund VOC contingency to pay for these. As you know, we brought an agenda out of last time to purchase test kits out of the contingency that was created through the CARES reimbursement. So the thought process is that we've used a lot of those contingencies, but regardless of the source that we choose, We're using general fund dollars at this time to fund this. We did add language in there to say that if the board so chooses, when we bring the ARPA agenda item forward, we could seek reimbursement from ARPA because that is also a qualified use of those funds. So basically, until the board has decided the full scope in which they wanted to use the ARPA funds, we felt this was a good temporary solution to allow property management to move forward with the cleaning and still keep that option on the table for the board to consider at a later date.
Thank you, Bill.
It's the same money.
Yes.
The CARES money.
Bill, can I have a follow-up question, please?
But we have an eligible expense that should come directly from CARES Act or ARPA. It's cleaning supplies, sanitizing for COVID.
Is it not the same money?
Yes, so, yes, and Commissioner Gamble, I'll let you ask your question in just a second. So, yes, whether we're gonna use the contingency created that through CARES, which is now sitting in the general fund, or BOC contingency, is gonna be the same purpose. But you're eligible, the only eligible grant expenditure or eligible grant that's still on the table will be ARPA, which we know the board has not made that decision on. So if the board would like to move forward with that, that is definitely an option. But I felt we believe the understanding was we're gonna bring those as one complete consideration when Deloitte finishes their scope of work. But Commissioner Gamble, if I haven't answered your question, can you please ask that?
Sure. We just passed a fund balance policy that said that fund balance would not be used for, essentially it's for one-time purchases. This is not a one-time purchase. This will be a requirement ongoing.
So the key point with this one is that we want to set a defined time period. So this gets you for a defined time period. So you're correct. If we said this was going to be ongoing in perpetuity, it would be with an exception to policy. We were planning on funding this for a period of time, but it would not overlap into fiscal years because you're already defining the amount in which you're spending. So I see your point, but I think the clear point here is that it has for a period of time and a limited scope of funds, and any further action would have to come back before the board. So once these funds are depleted, the board has no obligation to continue to fund that out of general fund. Obviously, if there is a desire to do so, an agenda item would have to be brought back forward for the board's consideration.
And what was our amount for the test kits reduced by?
I'm actually working with Cassie to get that final invoice because we had the larger order, which was canceled, and I pulled that back.
So that would cover, this would cover under that, this would go under that.
Originally it was like 800.
Yes, it was 800 for 60,000.
I'd like to make a comment. So there have been several items that fall under this category, and we never really question whether or not we all believe or have an agreement on how these funds are used or the point of using those funds, but not necessarily why we're using which bucket. That tends to be where the disagreement is. I think it just really fosters the idea that we should pre-allocate some amount, maybe 5 million or so, that we use out of ARPA, even prior to the final results that come from the consultants. And I would like for us to just look at that because we know that there are going to be certain requests that are eligible for ARPA before March. And I think we should be able to have the flexibility to address those needs that we know are more immediate. So that's just general commentary.
Agreed, and we actually do, and we consider this on a case-by-case basis. It's just been a matter of discussion like we're discussing now. And with the money is already here, we've just decided as a board to, consider most of these issues at one time, but you're correct, Commissioner, in that with matters that have been directly related to COVID, ARPA is certainly a fitting bucket to use. And so we've been doing that with the food distribution, with supporting the administration for the ERA funding, with covering the courts during this time, because we saw the direct nexus to COVID with that. And so this is something, again, that it could be eligible for. I think Bill has just been explaining why they use contingency because there's still CARES contingency there. And I think what we haven't done is articulated that clear here. So when you just see BOC contingency, it's not clear the connection to CARES. Even though CARES is referred to in the document, but right now we have resources. It's just a matter of where we pull these resources from. Do we do it from the CARES contingency of dollars we have left over, which I perceived, I was not involved in the crafting of this agenda item, perhaps was seen as a ready source of funding that was connected to this matter. But should the board have a preference to use ARPA money over this, I don't perceive that there is an objection to that. Just the more we start going into ARPA for things that could be covered with other sources, it just limits the potential of ARPA dollars.
And
No,
sorry, go ahead.
no, you go ahead, Commissioner.
I just wanted to clarify, I meant to have a pre-allocated amount, a cap. In other words, we say 5 million. And that way, as these things come up that are ARPA eligible, we pull it out of that 5 million so that the consultants know what they're working with and we're not just making decisions randomly.
I hear you. So it's certainly to the discretion of the board. I don't have the spreadsheet in front of me of what we've allocated already and what that total is to see how reasonable that dollar amount is, but I certainly get where you're going again. So people are aware just how much funding we are going to dedicate to ARPA. So Commissioner Burrow, I know this inquiry started with you. Is it your desire to see this come out of ARPA funds, or are you comfortable with it coming out of CARES contingency?
I agree with Commissioner Richardson. I'd rather see it come out of ARPA, especially for PPE and, you know, that kind of stuff that's a priority right now. I don't know if 5 million is a good number or not, but what we could do is whatever amount we say, 5 million or 2 million or whatever, to be good for until we get the prioritized list in place of what the whole ARPA funding is going to be allocated.
Okay. Are other commissioners willing to weigh in? Is there a desire for this to come out of ARPA? We already have 2 commissioners express their support for that.
I support Commissioner Richardson's to have this come out of ARPA funds, because what we're forgetting is, yes, the money that paid the salaries that then were reimbursed came out of undesignated contingencies, which means that money was taken from possibly doing some other potential capital one-time expenditure needed in the county. And with all the budget presentations we've had, we know that there's a lot of unfixed bathrooms in the county that could have been addressed with the $816,000 that we had done towards the self-test kits that are being distributed. And I know part of that's coming back, but again, it is a shell game. So I would rather see it come out of ARPA, let the undesignated contingencies function as they should, which is doing potential one-time capital improvements in the county that needs to be addressed.
Thank you, Commissioner Gamble. And I know there's been discussion about using that term shell game. I think the finance director has been very clear on where those funds are going and why this is being utilized in that purpose. I think that undermines their assessment of where to utilize these funds when we use those type of terms. The reality is, when we did not expend all of CARES on what we had planned for, because the expense did not arise to the amount we had dedicated it for, it did enable us to move those funds back into contingency in accordance with the law. And so I want us to be sensitive to the type of words that we use, which could provide some implication towards something being done underhanded. And there was nothing that was done in the dark or to move things in a way that was not made clear or is not above board. So I want to clarify that. We've heard from all commissioners, Commissioner Sheffield.
Yeah. No, I support the funds coming out of ARPA.
Okay.
Richardson.
Just to avoid this conversation, I would just suggest anytime there is CARES related funding, that discussion is had with the board to
Yes.
see whether or not they would like for it to come out of CARES contingency or ARPA. I'm certainly hearing a leaning towards using the ARPA funding.
Okay, we'll revise the agenda item as requested and we'll get that to the clerk's office.
Thank you, appreciate it.
And I do just want to make a final comment. If for time purposes, delay purposes, I appreciate that there's consensus in moving this forward through this. But my main thing is that there's some type of governance or policy for this capped amount that we do. Because that's more, I want it to be controlled in a sense that we know that there are random requests that are going to come up. And so that we're not treating it on a case by case basis. We know that it's self-contained within a certain capped amount. So yeah, I would have comfort moving this forward out of contingency, knowing that we would be working on a policy to govern our ARPA decisions. But if we do want to move forward with adding this to ARPA, I just suggest that we also have some type of soft agreement or some real on paper agreement that we have as part of the next board meeting for the allocated amount.
Thank you, Commissioner. In the past, we have had a soft agreement to make decisions for ARPA on things that had a direct nexus or connection to COVID. I do have to share, I am somewhat concerned in saying X amount, just because I don't want us to perceive spending up to that amount, nor if there's something that's dire that comes up that we feel constrained. But I do perceive that this discussion has fallen in line with our internal consideration that if we are going to pull ARP dollars to use for matters ahead of the prioritization of expenditures, that we wanted to have a direct connection to COVID. So, I don't mind seeing a policy. I just share with you, I just have some concerns setting that dollar amount when I never anticipated some of the things that have come up. I just, I don't want us to be over limiting nor too broad, and perhaps Bill, maybe some assessment on what we spent thus far.
We can get you that. You
Okay.
already said that already.
Okay, great.
I just want to be clear, PPE was the #1 category for CARES. This is PPE, and in the previous agendas, to be clear, we said any monies that will go back to contingency from CARES will be used for PPE. This is PPE, this is cleaning, guys. That is the main thing. So I don't want it to be left out there that staff is making decisions about how to use CARES and ARPA. American Rescue monies are fine, we can do that. But I just want you all to understand the reason we thought it was prudent to use these was because that's what CARES was originally designated for, and that's what we used it for in the past. Put up the shields, the plexiglass, the glass to buy cleaning supplies, to do all those things. This is the same thing coming from the same pot. I just want you to be aware. We didn't do anything different. So we thought that since that's what it's originally for, and we're doing the same thing, this would be a better pot to pull it from, to allow you to be able to use your ARPA dollars in other ways when you get to that point. But we'll change it and get it taken care of today.
To Dr. McMorris's
I'm
point.
sorry. We have multiple people speaking at the same time. Can somebody just kind of raise their hands so I know who's speaking?
Commissioner Gamber can go first because I can't find the hands.
Okay, thank you.
So Jackie, why didn't we transfer the money to a contingency fund for cleaning supplies if that was the way the agenda item was written? Why did it just go to undesignated? Why didn't we put it into a reserve specifically for, like you said, cleaning supplies, putting up plexiglass, et cetera?
At the end of the day, we bring every agenda back to you all anyway. So if you have a line item for every single thing that CARES was set for, you have 50 different line items. So when you all approved bringing the money back, it was to put it in a contingency fund for additional expenses that may be COVID related. And then every agenda would come back to specify that. And that's what we did. So at the time you all approved it, we didn't approve that that the CARES money would go back for this line, this line, this line, and this line. It was, we would put it in contingency, and if we touched it, we would bring it back to the board. But we've been very careful to only bring back those things that were originally approved for CARES money. You know what I'm saying? And to leave ARPA kind of over here for a minute, with the exception of those things that's already been approved. And we'll get you all that. Jimmy has all that already on what's been approved and a prioritization for things that may need to come forward ahead of Deloitte's results. So we do already have that available. But at the end of the day, what we wanted to make clear was the reason, we chose one over the other is that if it was eligible for masks and hand sanitizers and plexiglass and all of that before, and this is to make sure that your offices continue to be clean. We just thought it was, the best bucket to go through rather than going to the other one. But that being said, we will redo the agenda and make this ARPA money and then leave care. We won't bring a CARES item back.
With that, I want to emphasize to the board that I appreciate staff's consideration for it. Let's consider the differences between CARES and ARPA, where CARES was looking at a snapshot in time, dealing with the issues directly related to COVID, particularly with the emphasis on a health perspective. With the ARPA funding, you can look back, but we also have the ability to look forward. And so the more we continue to use funds that could address certain things that are related to the initial program, we will be limiting our ability to look forward and plan for that. And I just want to put that out there that, this was why we brought in a consultant and why we're going through the prioritization of matters, because we want to strategically use those dollars to help move the county forward.
I was just to Dr. McMorris's point, that's why I'm real advocate for having some type of policy if we do have funds that we allocate towards ARPA. Like I said, I was comfortable with moving this forward as a part of the contingency, but I was reiterating the point that having something pre-allocated or set aside that wasn't under consideration by the consultants would allow us that flexibility. If we could set our own governing protocol for how we could allocate those funds, whether it's everyone would agree to that funding, or it's for things that are non-PPE because there's already that contingency set aside, that we could think about that. And because March is a ways away. So that was really my point.
Thank you. Commissioner Burrow.
I agree with that. I don't know what amount. Maybe Bill could help us with that, or the county manager. But I do think that if we do that, that it be limited until we do prioritize the ARPA funding with Deloitte and that information, but also each item would still be coming back to us on a case by case basis.
Yes. And it does.
Yeah.
Certainly.
We don't have the authority to do that without you.
I know.
I'm sorry.
I just think
Question
it's
for
clear
Bill.
out of ARPA since we have.
Is this Commissioner Sheffield? Okay.
And I just have a quick question for Bill. What is the amount that we currently have in contingency for CARES?
I'll have to pull the amount for contingency for CARES, but since it's kind of related and it was already asked, we've allocated just over 11 million of ARPA to date, which means 62.6 million is unallocated. So that was the commissioners. I will send you the amount that's in the contingency for CARES after this meeting or this afternoon.
Okay.
Okay. And the reason that's not an easy answer today is because of the test kits.
Okay.
And the change in the order. So I'll have to figure out the difference of that.
Okay.
And remember, that's half of the 142.
What was that, Commissioner?
Yes.
The figures he just gave, the 62 and the 11 million, the 62,
Yeah.
60 remaining and 11 million that has been allocated.
Yeah.
That's the 72 million of the 140.
Yeah, it's only
It's
half
half.
of the full allocation. That's correct.
Right.
Okay, commissioners, I'm gonna move on just in the interest of time. If you do have any additional inquiry, please feel free to follow up with Bill and Jackie. We are moving on to public safety. They have one matter, agenda item 15. Do commissioners have any questions regarding that particular item? Now, we were going to move on to community development. There are two matters pertaining to annexation. Both of them are in District 4. Commissioner Sheffield, do you have any questions?
That was on 16?
16 and 17.
No, I followed up with David, hold on, let's see, regarding 16, and it was a typo on there. And Pam, I wanted to know if we needed to submit, and just so everyone's following me, I'm on page 158.
Thank you.
I'm on page 158, and there's a reference to the original application for 137 residential lots when it's actually 117. But in communicating with David, the correct letter was sent. But my question to Pam is, do we need to revise this particular page for the agenda?
I believe what we did was revise it just in-house without sending something out, another piece of paper. And when we republished, it was correct, but I'll verify that that's what we did on Friday after you sent me that email.
Okay, all right,
Yes,
that's fine. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for item 17?
No, I didn't have any, no.
All right, we'll go ahead and move on to finance. They have agenda items 18 and 19. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to CobWorks. CobWorks has, excuse me, my pages are on here. They have the next 4 items. Are there any questions? Okay, moving on to agenda item number 24. This is under the county manager. Are there any questions for this matter?
I have one question.
Yes, Commissioner Burrow.
In the agenda item, it says what the total amount is for all the positions increase amount. But I'd like to see what their current salary is and what, it says what they're asking for to go to, the new salaries. But it doesn't say what their current salary is so that we can do a comparison to see what percentage increase it is.
Jimmy could get that to you.
Commissioner, did you have a conversation with staff?
I did.
Okay, just want to make sure.
And I thought I asked for that, but maybe I didn't.
Okay. And you have, Jimmy could just send that to all the commissioners. Okay.
And I could put that in. Agenda item.
Okay, moving on to the county clerk. There are two matters item 25, which is our regular consideration of the minutes. And then there's also the resolution reflecting the consolidation of the CSB and Highland Rivers. There was a purple attachment that provides the resolution. I didn't get this until today. But if commissioners, if you're not here, you'll, can we just send this to the commissioners electronically?
And I think we did email it on Friday, but if not,
Okay,
I'll
great.
forward it again, just to be sure. So
They
you
got
got
it? Yeah, I'm good.
Of course, it coincides with appointments in the back. Yes.
Are there any questions regarding this item?
Did you see that typo?
Mm-hmm.
On which page? I see it.
Okay, we'll move on to the regular agenda. The first matter on the regular agenda is item 27 pertaining to the resolution for the proposed commission district map.
And,
Yeah,
I've already gone on record that I don't support this.
okay. Did you talk again with the representative? Yeah, I know he was involved in reaching out to all the commissioners.
Yeah, after he sent this initially to all of us, sent an email to him and others that he copied in that are, on the reapportionment list and my two presented and sent.
Jimmy might have some
Okay,
update.
I'd love to talk to you about it.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm saying Jimmy may have some update. I know there's some moving parts. Jimmy, you want to
Yes,
mention?
ma'am. Today, Representative Allen is supposed to drop the map from the local delegation. He ran the public ad, which is part of the process. Anytime local legislation is coming forward, he ran that Friday, was a week ago. So his intent was to drop that this morning. I believe there's also going to be a map dropped from another one of our delegation as a general legislation today as well. So it should be getting interesting here over the next couple of weeks.
Jimmy, do you have a copy of that second map?
No, ma'am, it has not been provided yet.
Why is that?
It is very interesting.
It is very interesting. Try not to say too many things disparaging, but we were not included in that process of developing that map. I don't believe anyone was, as a matter of fact, at the county level. I guess we will see it as soon as it is dropped today. But it will be a general legislation drop, not a local delegation drop.
Commissioner Gamble, I see you. Go ahead.
Jimmy, just a follow-up question because of this map that none of us have seen. Who at the county was involved with the one that Representative Allen did? Because my understanding when I met with him is the delegation was the one who came up with that and there was no county input. So can you clarify that statement, please?
Yes, ma'am. Representative Allen did have one-on-one meetings with each one of the commissioners. And he took into account as much as he could of the input that he gathered from those one-on-one meetings. That's what I've been told. I mean, I was not in the meetings with Representative Allen and the commissioner, so I really can't say, did he follow every line that was requested? I can't answer that, but he did get input.
Meetings. Yeah.
Commissioner Gamble, yes.
Okay, just for clarification, my meeting with Representative Allen did not happen until after the maps were drawn. So I had no input prior to the map being drawn and presented. So I just want that for the record.
Thank you, Commissioner. You know, he emphasized discussion with the commissioners, and from my discussion with him, Yeah, the goal was to make as few changes to the districts as possible based off of the change in populations that had to be considered. And so in trying to be mindful of that, that's what resulted in the current map as presented. I know Commissioner Burrow has sent an email out stating her concerns about it. But I can tell you from my conversations with him, and this was also shared during our legislative meetings, that he did what he could to make as minor change as possible to any commissioner. And I can tell you from my service on the board, there was very little communication. In fact, I was told I had no bearing on the district maps when I was a district commissioner, and this was a state task. And so I will go on the record as saying, I appreciate Representative Allen being mindful of our current maps and taking the time to, to speak with each commissioner, because that did not occur when the maps were redrawn before. Commissioner Burrow.
And it is, we are at their mercy. It is their discretion. And I would just like to say that when I met with, Representative Allen, we did go through the map he proposed. And I did ask for certain adjustments or revisions. But since then, or after that, as, we were given permission to meet with the reapportionment office. I did that virtually and, looked at some other options as well. So, I don't support the map as it is presented.
I'm not aware of any other direct conversations beyond with Eric Allen to the reapportionment office to modify the map. We will have to wait and
I
see
did
what was.
that individually.
Oh, okay. So we'll wait and see, and what goes unsaid, and we're dealing with staff is, I mean, this is politics, commissioners, and the redistricting process is absolutely a political endeavor. And we are in a position where even though our local delegation has proffered a map in communication with us, as Commissioner Burrow clarified, the state does not need to consult us in redrawing these maps. And so, what was done, I appreciate as a great courtesy. I will be looking out as you will be, to see what maps are being proposed. And Jimmy, as soon as you get that, can you please let us know?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and just forward us a copy.
Yes.
I mean, do you anticipate receiving the other map?
Once it hits the floor, it becomes quasi-public record, so I should be able to get a hold of it then.
But I'm saying before then, but you're not expecting any, okay.
Nobody's gonna see it before it's filed. As a bill. I don't know.
All right, I'm gonna move on again. In the interest of time, we have a heavy agenda today, commissioners, especially with exec following. So let's move on. The sheriff has a regular agenda item number 28.
Hey, Madam Chair, this is Chief Register. Madam Chair and Commissioners, we're going to pull item 28.
Okay.
We need to sort out some contractual issues on that agenda item, and we'll resubmit it at a later date.
Very good. Thanks for letting us know.
29, just a renovation of a conference room in our muster room area. The renovation is needed.
Yes.
And it will also assist with making more effective and efficient use of the space. We'll use SPLOST 16 funds, not to exceed $320,442.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Okay, we will move on to our next regular tab, which will be transportation, recognizing that we have pulled the agenda item off of consent. I believe that was agenda item number 12 pertaining to Leland Drive. So that will be heard first. And then we'll move into the rest of the items that are presented here. Okay, the first one, we'll go through these one by one as we typically do. Are there any questions with agenda item 30? All right, seeing none, we'll go to 31. Are there any questions or comments? Thank you, Commissioner. All right. Agenda item number 32. Okay, moving on to 33. Any questions? Okay, agenda item 34. Considering there are 20 of these commissioners, why don't I just do this? We'll be here. We'll be here for 20 minutes just for these 20 items. Are there any questions? I'm just going to go to the first page. On page 5 of our agenda, are there any questions pertaining to agenda items 30 through 37?
Just clarification.
Sure, Commissioner Brown.
I would like to put on the record, I have no other questions for the agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner Gabbro. For the entire agenda. Uh-oh, she didn't hear that.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Sheffield?
No, I said, and there you have it, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, fine. All right, Commissioner Burrow.
Drew, for number 36, the savings goes back into the District 3 sidewalk fund.
That's correct.
And when are we looking at prioritizing the rest of the year?
We're working right now with the Deputy County Manager's Office to set the schedule for the 22 SPOS, which includes some sidewalk funds. Once we have that, we'll have a good picture that we can walk through with each of the district commissioners on how much sidewalk funding is available early in the program. And then we'll be able to work through the remainder of the 16 sidewalk funds as well as starting any 22 projects.
Okay, thank you. And number 39.
Okay, so we're still on 30 through 37. Are there any
Oh,
other questions? That's okay. Are there any other questions for those matters? Okay, we're going to go ahead and move to page 6, which has agenda items 38 through 47. And Commissioner Burrow, you can go ahead.
Okay, 39, just for clarification, I want to make sure that this is just an extension for time due to the delay of the sewer main. There's no cost involved, no additional cost. It's just extension of time because
That's
we're
correct.
delayed with the water project.
That's correct. There were some stormwater issues identified on the project as well that needed to be sorted out, but yes, it's just a no-cost time extension to March 31st.
Okay. And then 46, is that the same? What is 46? Because, oh, you're not there yet, are you?
Yes, ma'am. Any matter 38 through 47.
This is the same. We run typically we'll run the engineering contract concurrent with the construction contract to be able to address any issues that come up in construction that need some design assistance. So this just takes a no cost time extension to take the low engineers who designed that project for us to extend their contract out to the 31st just for any unforeseen conditions during construction.
Okay. But it's the same project.
That's correct.
And then
Just
my
construction and
last question, number 47, does this close this out?
This This closes out the project from the 05 program. It moves, this was really just a contract mechanism where grant funds were received from the CID to pay out on the project. This moves it to a general fund capital project to then be able to continue delivery. Phase 2B is a project that the CID is funding in assistance with federal funds. That project still has items to be completed, but it does not need to be carried in the 05 program. This is another check mark to be able to move closer to closing out the 05 program.
Okay. That needs to be done. Okay, Madam Chair, I don't have any more questions for the remainder of the agenda.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from commissioners with respect to agenda items 38 through 47? I can share, Drew, that I reviewed the CTP over the weekend and we've received some, at least I have, I don't know if everyone from the board has received some feedback from the public with respect to the CTP for us to consider more alignment with some of the strategies of the ATL's governing principles, which I perceive are in alignment with where this board stands with respect to access, economic development, mobility, environment, and equity. And so I would just be my ask that, you know, as we have discussion with respect to this, that we look at this again through that framework. You know, we have opportunity to really ensure that our transportation plan is a plan that looks at transportation for all and access for all. And so the spirit of that, I think, is important to be reflected throughout the document, as well as to take advantage of the opportunities to consider the environment and also technology. And I noticed there's a very robust addendum at the end of the CTP that goes into technology measures. But these are important considerations, I think, that should be considered in the meat of the document. So it's very clear that these are interest of the board. And so I haven't gone through these emails that I've received in detail, but I certainly am in support of, again, ensuring that we're very clear that our projects tie into economic development, tie into equity, and tie into sustainability in the environment. And that, again, we are acknowledging that technology is changing today. And so even though there's some things that are unknown, I think recognizing that in the document helps us to even look at some of these projects with some flexibility so that we're not constraining ourselves for what we see today, but we're acknowledging that technology can be changing over time, and that should be considered in how we consider these projects.
One option, Chairwoman, to that end, this being a technical document of just a kind of a scope of potential projects over the life of the program. We're also concurrently working on a policy document for the board's consideration on the application of how to apply for grant funding and what the prioritization process is on that. And so that could also, some of those considerations could also be pulled into that policy document as well.
Great. The CTP, that's our guiding document for policy for transportation, correct?
It is.
Okay. So yeah, I think it's important for that, but also to be reflected here, because when people look at this, they're saying that's our vision for the next 30 years. And so again, I think it's important again to call out those specific things. I think we could talk about this more, Drew. I know we spoke over the weekend, but I just see opportunity again for us to take a look at this. And I think that was considered in this email I received from someone from the tab over the weekend. And also one of our former planners for the county. That's the only question or observation I have regarding the DOT agenda. Commissioner Sheffield, did you have any questions regarding any of these, or Richardson?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Chairman, may I ask, were you looking for Drew to to beef up that add-on agenda item and still move forward with it. Tuesday night.
The agenda.
The CDP.
Yes, yes, yes.
Still move forward. With it
Yes.
Tuesday night.
Well, we'll have some more discussion. I would love for it to be beefed up and see how we can do that. I did speak to Chris Tomlinson with the ATL about possible modifications, and he acknowledged since just last week, the Biden administration came out with the Build Back Better plan, that he sees that there could potentially be modifications to CTPs just in metro-wide. And so he's gonna have that discussion as well.
We're just really concerned if this doesn't get passed Tuesday night, this first step, then it can impact the rest of it.
So not impact that, Bill, help me understand the opportunity for the board to address some of those policy interests beyond the vote on Tuesday.
Well, Drew can probably explain it better than I can. All we're asking through this document is asking ETL to actually speak into what our potential projects would be.
Is
Well,
this
Bill,
adopting the
I'm
CTP?
sorry.
Is this adopting the CTP as written to do that?
So just to clarify, this agenda item 41 adopts the CTP, and that's just the guiding policy document for transportation. That's outside of any particular referendum. It's just the adoption of the plan itself. So look for board direction there if there's a desire to add some additional language and clarification. We're glad to do that. It would likely be challenging to do that before tomorrow. So I would just respectfully ask that if that's the desire, that then we pull this item and then work cooperatively with the board on any updates to that language. This does not authorize staff to submit projects to the ATL pursuant to 930.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying, Drew. It's my understanding we have to have a different agenda item that does that resolution. Okay. Okay, thank you. And again, Drew, I'll be in touch before tomorrow and just, again, take some time to walk through the correspondence I received. And I'll also be going to the TAB meeting tonight too, and, perhaps Walter can help clarify his email discussion. Okay, moving on to the next tab, we have support services, agenda item number 48. I know I've seen robust discussion between Commissioner Gambrill and staff. Commissioner Gambrill, were all of your questions answered? I'm sorry. Commissioner, are you okay with agenda item 48?
I have sent an email, or actually, no, I'm sorry, 48. No, I'm fine with 48.
You're fine?
With number 48.
Yep, okay, that's right. You said you had no more questions for the agenda. I forgot. Thank you. Let me write on that. All right, moving on to the Public Services Agency. Agenda items 49 and 50. Are there any questions? Okay, moving on to agenda item, 51 is just public comment. Then there's 3 appointments to Highland Rivers Health. But commissioners, I want to share with you that looking at the resolution, that we actually have a 4th member that could be added on to this new Highland Rivers Board. I know I sent an email about this at the top of December last year, but if you want for someone to be considered for this, please take time to email one another and share that so that we can have all of the positions on that board. If you can recall, we have a minority position. We do not have a majority on this newly formed board. So it's important that we get all of our positions filled to strengthen our votes and our voice on matters that are being considered.
And Chairwoman, the board can recommend that fourth position is actually selected by the Highland members.
I see.
Recommendations.
Okay.
DOC next to them.
Thank you for clarifying that, Bill. That's the difference for that position.
Yes.
So if anyone has someone in mind, please suggest someone, and it doesn't hurt to reach out to Melanie Rivers to
Dallas.
I'm sorry, Mel, I don't know why I keep calling her Melanie.
Rivers.
Highland Rivers, okay, yes. Please reach out to Melanie Dallas so there can be some sense of what she may be looking for as for qualifications for that fourth person. We have discussed when it was just the Cobb CSB, having a Cobb advisory board in addition to this new board so that we can be hearing from people on the ground to help inform the work that's being done in Cobb County. And that's something that I emailed her about as I submitted these appointments and us trying to pull that together. When I hear back from her, I will let you know because again, with everything that's been going on over the past 2 years, it's very important that our voices are not diluted in how we can be responsive to our citizens with respect to mental health. And so again, don't forget, there's that fourth position, reach out to Melanie Dallas and other commissioners if you're interested in someone. We need to have some consensus, but again, Melanie can help give you some insight as to what skill sets or interests you may have in that additional person. After that will be the commissioner's public address. And I just want to tell you, commissioners, just be mindful again, I'm anticipating a late evening meeting. I've been here for code amendments where the meeting has stretched into 1 a.m. in the morning. So keep that in mind as you're crafting your commissioner comments of the time and the length of time staff and everyone is sitting through that. With that, is there anything else? Are we good? What I'm going to do is entertain a motion for us to go into exec. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All right. And anyone opposed? All right. Those in favor, just raise your hand. I hate for us to be moving our time out, but I'm going to ask that we come back at 10:15 for exec. So you can make sure you log off and log back in. Commissioners, I'll see you in a little bit. Thanks and take care.